In the SDS reporter, you have the thermocouples that are used in your survey. These are defined under the thermocouple tab. As you click on that, you can see that we have the 9 thermocouples that are defined in the actual survey segment itself. So when I click over to the chart and look at the information here, I can of course zoom in and see the characteristics of my survey. I can turn those on and off to see high and low. And of course the high and the low are actually reported on in your, as far as your high temperature, your low temperature, those are reported on in your SDS report using the data tags that we have defined. So in the report here, I can have additional data for what we would define as the control, the high, the low. Of course, where we are data logging this information, I just have them either highlighted or not highlighted there. This data here is corrected, and if you have entered a TC spool correction factor, you would have the 0.1 that's defined in there. So right now that 0.1 would be defined. So when we do our Boeing comparison check, what we want to do is, as we define our survey rack, and we'll take a look at what our TCs would look like. So we have the 9 black defined TC numbers, and then as an example, I have 10, 11, and 12 defined as what we would be using for our comparison check. So going back to SDS Reporter, where I have 10, 11, and 12 here, if I want to use a custom wire correction, and if I'm jumpering that, I click on that, highlight that there, and I go to use 0. And of course, the values are changed to actually have that on there. So that's where we're taking input number, our survey input 10, TC wire correction factor now is 0, so our reading is 402.1. And of course, the correction factor for my 3, 7, and 4, as defined by my TC spool correction factor here. So 3, 7, and 4, which are part of my survey rack that have the wire with the correction, they have that defined right here. So all the readings that we see on here are corrected, just like on my chart data here, where I have thermocouples 1 through 9 that are defined in my survey segment. These are also corrected. So that's the reporting properties. Again, this is where you would use the custom wire corrections for your comparison TC numbers. So that would be the comparison TC numbers, comparison test TC wire correction. We have those zeroed out here, which means we're using a thermocouple jumper from those inputs. So we're using extension wire, and then that's zeroed out. And for what I would suggest is any information that you want to provide, just to provide some clarity, you could go ahead and put that in here. On another note as well, since we don't have a TC spool, since this is jumpered, I would be the comparison test. We would want to take that spool number out, since we are using some custom wire corrections. So again, that's how you would turn that off. Take out your comparison test to the TC spool number, and then you have your 0 correction there. So that is how we would go through defining our TCs, our corrections, and then our comparison check data. Okay.